This is the Simply Home podcast, Ladies Who Build, a podcast for women by women. This is Ashley Wainscott
and Michelle Mullins. After spending the last 10 years revolutionizing the construction industry and raising the bar of the contracting world, we are inviting you on our journey as we continuously learn how to be extraordinary and thrive in this industry. Now come hang with us.
Welcome to episode 14, Behind the Walls. We are here with a very special guest, Guy Goodenough. And this season, we are talking with our team members all about their experience, things that they see on job sites, and we're just sharing everything that you probably don't know because you're not here working with us. So some key summary points for this episode. We are going to be talking about stories, surprises on job sites, things that are most frequently seen on those job sites, the unexpected, and we're going to be talking about cost factors, permit considerations, time considerations with all of these things, and of course, the phenomenal approach of Guy and how he specifically handles these things as they come up.
Yeah. So, okay, Guy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
We're so excited you're here. For those who don't know, Guy Goodenough is one of our construction managers, and he holds down the north side. So if you have a north project coming up or have had one, you definitely probably worked with Guy. And my little intro for you is you're like the construction dad of the group, because anytime anybody has a construction question on the team, I'll always say, have you asked Guy? Because if you don't know the answer, you will certainly research it and give us the answer. So you were just like a wealth of knowledge, all things construction.
Read my mind. I was about to say, Guy is a wealth of information in almost Wikipedia, but better.
Uh-huh.
But also we have to think about Guy's trophy, and he's the audiobook voice of heaven.
Oh, yeah. So without further ado, let us show you how soothing his voice is on the mic.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah. I would like to think of myself as Wikipedia, but more personable. So, but yeah, I really, I enjoy what I do, and I'm fascinated by our industry and just, the skill that our trades have. And so anytime I have the opportunity to dig in on something and really research a topic that I'm either have and can share or need to look into further so that I can better understand it, I jump at those opportunities. So.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah, that gives us peace of mind. We love Guy on the team because Guy will inspect and understand every piece of a situation, whether it's a material or an approach. And I love that. Mm-hmm. I love how your brain works. My brain doesn't work that way.
But I think it's important that you've got that level of confidence. So that's why I try to be prepared and look into these things before they come up if possible. And I'm constantly looking for different things on the internet that I can look into, or just chasing down the rabbit hole on YouTube so that I can try to look in for something new, or woodworking or framing, or that rabbit hole will just go.
It goes. So, Guy, tell us where you came, what's your background, where you came from that led you to this role?
Well, I've been in construction and for quite some time. It originally started actually when I was in retail with Best Buy. I worked there for quite some time and had an opportunity to work with a team and department that eventually developed out of it. And we would go around remodeling stores. And that took me to a corporate level job at that point. And I've been in DC, I've been in California, Florida, all throughout Texas, Virginia, Colorado for sure. And it was an excellent opportunity to see a lot of different aspects of kind of corporate construction. My particular field dealt with, the merchandising, the fixtures themselves. Eventually got into low voltage, and then managing any scopes that were around that as well, including managing electricians. Didn't really have much plumbing, but electricians and general laborers as well to make sure that scope got resolved. So. I did that for quite a while, and then that branched out. My love of construction was born out of that, and I went into a new residential component of cabinetry. And I got to see cabinetry is a really unique industry because it winds up being a beginning point of... You take construction up to a certain point where you get the framing, you get the drywall, and almost any point after that, the cabinets can go in. And it has to seamlessly be installed and work with how everything's framed, drywall, trim comes in around it, countertops come in around it, then plumbing around it, the electrical around it. So I wound up learning a lot of different code aspects and how to work with those other trades to make sure that their scope and their design within the building and construction fit with our cabinets. That's definitely how I wound up being pretty well versed in most aspects of code and how those things come into play. Worked with two different firms, both of them within the Austin, Texas area. And after quite a few years, I got more interested in the project management, from working with all these trades and having a general understanding of, beginning to end of construction. I wanted to venture out and try project management. Well, I saw your fantastic opening for project management and approached y'all for that. And we definitely I liked what y'all had to offer with Simply Home. And, y'all definitely saw some talent open there for an opportunity. And although I didn't get the project manager role, y'all had a construction manager role. And I have not looked back ever since. I think it's been a great fit and a fantastic couple of years.
Yeah. What a great summary. That wraps it up in a bow for sure.
And I'm glad that you went over that because I remember during your interviews, Guy being so wowed with your process with Best Buy and working in cabinets. And I just thought it was very well-rounded, but it was also really great that even though you had experience in this one area, you would jump to this other area and not be afraid of learning this new area of expertise because not everybody does that.
Yeah. Well, it definitely helps when you like what you do and you're eager to look into it further. So, yeah.
So I think that is such a good intro because especially working in cabinets are really tricky because there's so many things that affect what comes before and after cabinets. And so I think you do a good job. And this is a really great topic that we're discussing with you because there are so many factors in construction that are kind of like domino effects where you do one thing and you have to see how it affects the 10 others that come behind it. So I think you have a good perspective in that with that being your background. So to jump in a little bit on our main topic is really what do we find behind the walls of projects? So we always tell clients that, no project goes perfectly. It's just quite impossible because when you're doing a remodel, you're not doing a new build where you get to control every factor that goes into this home. No, we're dealing with things that are homes that are built in the 70s, the 50s, and so on. So you have to kind of workshop what is existing. And so we want to share a little bit about what we have experienced in finding behind the walls, how we handle those things. And then it's really just to educate clients. So to not be scared, it's stuff we can all handle, but just kind of give you a little bit of insight into what that looks like. So I guess why don't you start out with maybe what's the most common thing you find when you start a project that kind of comes up time and time again behind the unexpected?
Well, I think, the most common thing that we come across will usually be framing that is degraded over time. Since so often, we're working on a bath or kitchen, which are often located on exterior homes. Think of that kitchen sink that's always centered on the window, and the bathtub that's out on the exterior of the home. Something that you wind up dealing with is you've got water either from the kitchen sink, the bathtub, or from the exterior of the home that has breached the barrier of the home. It seeps into that sill plate at the floor level and starts to get pulled up into the wall. So that's what we see when the drywall first opens up. Often the actual framing and structure of the building is degraded. Sometimes it's a tiny little bit, not much to be concerned with. Other times I've seen across multiple studs, so we're talking 20, 30 inches, that floor plate has disintegrated and has to be completely rebuilt. So I would have to say, when we open the wall, that's what we kind of look for first and really almost expect to find.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on, how extensive it is, usually some amount of that has been factored in, and we can just, go ahead and clean it up right then and there when we find it. We had a job recently where that was discovered, and we were already in position to reframe the shower niche, which already fit within that wall. So, for just a couple more studs, we were able to clean that up and get it resolved for our client. So
kind of a weird blessing in a way when you're remodeling, is that it allows you to go back in and clean up anything that has happened over time,
mm-hmm.
or maybe the way something was done previously, whether that was DIY or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives us the opportunity to address it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good, full reset on that button.
Yeah.
Sure.
Demo is always such a interesting time in the project, because there's a lot of expectation setting where we know what comes after demo is the unexpected, and there's always going to be some things that we find. So it's all, I'm sure you go in and you're just starting to look over everything like, all right, what do we got here? What are we working with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's definitely the beginning phase of the project. We really, and we when we have a new client and we're sitting down with them, it's like, that's going to be the moment where we're going to find it. And unfortunately, it's, when we've started that relationship with the client, started in the project, and, usually towards the end of the project, you're not finding these things. But you've got this fresh relationship, and you're like, I'm sorry, half your wall's gone. We're going to have to approach this. Maybe it's something that we kind of accounted for in the budget. Maybe it wasn't at all. And so then we go from there, whether that be something that, we can cover within, what we budgeted, or if it's going to have to be approached as a change order. So
I think that's a good point that you make, because most of our change orders that come up, like the unexpected change orders come up, are really at the beginning of a project. So like what you're saying is during demo, during framing, during rough-ins of electrical and mechanical stuff. For clients going into this saying, we've heard the question, well, are we going to see this throughout the project? Typically, no. It's really just at the beginning where it gets kind of hefty, because we've got to see what's behind your walls. And then from there, majority of the time, like change orders come up usually because it's just add-ons, design add-ons,
mm-hmm.
or if something comes up, we'll give you some options to say, you don't technically have to do this, or, it's really kind of rare, like to your point, when we're kind of getting towards the end of a project where something big comes up that we really have to drastically address. That all usually happens at the forefront. So once as a client, you're kind of through that initial hump, you can kind of breathe easy a little bit, like, okay, they didn't find anything too crazy. It's good.
Yeah. That would be that awesome moment. Once you're past that, you're ready to like re-insulate and drywall. If you've managed to get past that with any significant discoveries, you're pretty much home free.
You're coasting.
Yeah, that involves the celebration.
Yeah.
We need to put that into our calendars for clients. Day for stop and celebrate for them.
Yeah.
And us. I mean, both. Because really it does. I mean, it impacts us a lot too. It's not something we necessarily want, because then we reorganize calendars and reschedule vendors, and, involves a lot of thinking and consideration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Besides framing, what's something else you run into?
Well, a lot of times it's when we've operated under, and I think a fair assumption that certain things are done up to what would have been code. But we have certainly discovered with some of our most recent remodels that I don't know if there was a time period or just people were getting away with what they were. A recent discovery that we've seen time and time again is vent fans and exhaust fans that are just going into scuttle spaces and into the attic, which, of course, you're not doing yourself any good. Any sort of odor or grease or humidity is not actually vacating the home. So you're really just steaming that attic space, and that's, maybe you've got some ridge vents or some gable vents that are kind of alleviating the issue, but certainly not to plan. So in those instances where you've been changing out those appliances, either just flat out working or getting more efficient or, something that operates more quietly, we've discovered that we go to reconnect it with the existing ductwork and it goes nowhere. And at that point, sometimes you get lucky and there was already a roof vent that was either intended and just never connected because it goes through 2 or 3 different teams at that point. And that's a more easy and quick solution where we can make it connect as it was supposed to. But then if it doesn't, and we don't have an access point, that's where we start having to get into multiple trades. We've got our electrician and or HVAC team coming in for the appliance. And then we've got a roofer so that we can get you an exhaust port and make sure it's sealed properly for that roof ventilation, or sidewall if we're fortunate enough to be near an eaves of a home and can make it work within code allowance. And there are stipulations for that as well. I actually, we're going through a construction process of my own through roofing and re-insulation. And we discovered my very own bathroom vents are just hanging out in the attic. So I know that we've seen this at multiple jobs with Assembly Home, but even in my own home, so.
Much to your own dismay.
You're one
of the people this happened to.
It does. And, I make sure we're getting it fixed, in line with this project. So, yeah.
Not in my home.
No.
Not in here.
I try to walk the walk and make it done right. So,
I mean, we're really good at going in other people's homes all day and addressing everybody else's needs, and then every time I come back here, I'm like, oh yeah, I should do that too.
I think we've talked about this too in the past, but with code, code is so interesting, and it's actually kind of interesting for us in our position, seeing all these different types of homes and what years they're built. Is that truly, the way things were done back then was up to code at that point, right? So to your point, it could have been a code thing where, okay, this was sufficient enough to vent out to the attic. Who really knows? But I think about all the electrical nuances, which I won't go into detail because it's like really detailed and crazy to think about. But these homes, you'll go through and you're like, oh my gosh, this seems not safe. Like, why would anybody do that? And then lo and behold, you'll talk to the trade and they're like, well, that was code back in the day. Like, that was normal. And so it's kind of interesting, to your point, Ashley, is like when you do a remodel, you get to actually kind of bring your home back up to current code. And so it's nice that we touch all those spaces, because especially when you're pulling permits, and as you know, Guy, that the inspector really has a free for all with your home at that point, and you just gotta go with whatever he wants to tell you to upgrade.
That is exactly right. And actually, another point I was going to bring up, I know you've had those experiences where you're that close to being done with the project, and I think it even goes back to when we were interviewing. You mentioned that you were on final inspection. The inspector walked in. You're doing like a tiny bathroom at the back of the house, but he asked you by that window at the front door. Yeah. And it turned out it was predated, probably fine at the time, but it wasn't tempered, and we got dinged on that one.
Oh, the tempered windows.
And like, windows are not cheap. So then to tell a client when you're about to close out a project, they've spent all their money, they're good, they're ready, then you're like, oh, now I have to order this window that the inspector wants.
Which windows usually are just not in stock.
Then you have to wait for this.
Hop in.
Right.
And then close out
that Home Depot purchase.
And inspectors are funny in that they will bring up things at the very final inspection that you know that they've seen the whole time. And they're like, well, I didn't have to bring it up until this inspection. I'm like, you're right. You didn't have to. But I mean, I guess a tempered window is a safety issue, you know? I guess it is.
Yeah. The whole point of that tempered window by that door is so that, if you were to trip and fall reaching for the door, it's not going to break a dangerous little piece of the glass. So, I mean, they definitely have reasons to be that way, but,
Yeah, guys, like, actually, that's super important. We're like, you don't need it. No, you don't need that.
Very strange reasons, but they're all based on
past
any contract that's built. It's based on past experiences. So someone somewhere that happened to, and now it's a code.
Yep.
And
even though the chances might be 1 out of a million, it's
going to apply to your house.
Yeah.
And one of the other ones that'll get us every now and again is smoke detectors.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing on our scope. It's just existing within the envelope of the home. But yeah, we've had a number of those where either, it needed that one extra one in the hallway, or they weren't wired. And we've had to investigate, that one wired unit and the wireless system, if that's considered acceptable for that job. But that's another one that's blindsided us, because it wasn't anything that was directly related with our one little bathroom that we were retiling in the back of the house. But it's certainly something that can come up. So
I remember a wall. I remember we were doing a kitchen, and it was over here.
I know what you're thinking of. Yeah.
Yes. Over in Northwest Hills, Michelle and I were working on a kitchen, and the inspector at the very end of the project came in and asked if the garage wall that the kitchen was on was fire blocked. And Michelle and I thought, that's a great question. Is it fire blocked? And I don't know why. I think because on the garage side, maybe there was a hole or something that happened where he was able to see that the wall previously wasn't fire blocked. And we hadn't demoed out that wall or anything, hadn't really touched that wall other than installing cabinets. But anyways, that was something that got us at the very end of the project. And, I think a lot of people I will bring this up. I know we talk about this, but a lot of people say, well, aren't you a general contractor? Aren't you supposed to know everything? And I think this comes up all the time, because I'm like, I would love to know everything. If I were a robot, I could probably know everything. But there's no way to know everything that could possibly come up or that could possibly be in your walls. And we do a very thorough job, at least initially. At least I can say that for us. Initially, we do a very thorough job on the sales side as far as bringing vendors out, double checking things, doing our due diligence. But there are still things that we are just not going to see, and not because we don't want to, but that's not how it's going to go. There was no way to look into a client's wall to know if it was fire blocked before we start the project. And that's one of those things that I'm like, I didn't know. And that would have been way easier a few months ago to fix. So
I think on that note, one of the high level points we wanted to hit here too was, I'm sure people are thinking, okay, well, how do I prepare for these? If we have no way of knowing, if we didn't consider it in the overall budget, what do you recommend clients do to prepare for the unexpected?
Well, I mean, something that I think we do a decent job of is, planning in our estimate, bringing up a contingency, where we tell them this percentage of what we've discussed may come up in some capacity, whether that be an additional cost due to new framing, or because we discovered this about the vents, or a code concern comes up. And there are a number of different ways in which that can trigger, both for safety-wise, inspector-wise, But, we try to put it in the verbiage of the estimate that this should be thought of as a real number that may come into play. Now, it's not a number that we collect or bank on or, and will stay with you, but it's wise to be thinking about those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
And Guy, what's helpful? Is there anything a client can do or anything a client can say or how they can be throughout this process that you have found has been really beneficial for some clients?
So, just be excited about the process, stay focused on what you're wanting to get out of it. Understand that the actual journey is going to have its highs and lows, but that, we're definitely going to make sure we get to that finished product and get it as close to, your exacting dream that fits within what's physically and, safely can be completed. So, it can be a very bumpy journey, but, we'll get you there. So.
Just put on your seatbelt.
There you go.
Buckle in.
Yeah.
I think what would be a fun question for you, maybe if you can remember a time of this happening, but what do you think is like the most bizarre thing you found behind the walls or inside a house?
Let's see. I think that would probably wind up going back to like pest wise, we found mummified rodents, that certainly happens and is one of those things in those walls. It comes up more often than you realize, so and then of course there was my surprise last year where I was walking a job site and of course wound up being bit by a brown recluse spider, so that was pleasant. So
and you didn't know it at the time, right?
No. Their bites are so tiny that you will not feel it. You just notice the effects like a few days later. So, yeah, I guess that's one pleasant thing.
When we were at that job site taking photos at the end, I was looking at it and I wore my tall boots. And even though the project was finished, I have kind of arachnophobia. And so when that happened to you, I'm not messing around with brown recluses or really any spider for that matter.
Yeah.
But you were able, the bite went away. Because how do you treat brown recluse bites?
I think you just put antibiotics and ride that one out. Yeah. It could have gotten worse. My doctor said I fared really well for that one. So, yeah.
Gosh.
So. Yeah.
See the sacrifice Guy makes for your projects.
Yes.
You know it's going to be done right.
And we call pest control.
I think we did 2 rounds on that one. Yeah.
As we should.
Yeah.
Those are like the houses, though, that have been sitting for a while that hasn't been lived in and it's kind of just been there. Then the critters start to make their way in.
That house was sitting there empty for what?
Years.
5 years?
Yeah, 3 to 5 years. Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
So, they had full rights to it. Really.
Yeah, I was going to say, so we were in there.
Yes. It was my fault. I acknowledge. So, yeah.
Get out of here.
This isn't like a big deal because it's more just funny, but some like random stuff I'll find in walls is when the house was built, the construction workers would throw their fast food cups and bags in the walls. And then you open up that wall and you're like, well, this guy was eating some Whataburger when he was building the wall, which is like not a big deal, but kind of just like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Who were us?
And gross. Like, who thought that was a good idea?
Also, could you imagine being in your bathroom and thinking it smells like Taco Bell?
Right.
Months later, and why does this smell like Taco Bell?
Yeah.
Nice gravy Taco Bell?
That's how they get you. All right, cool. Yeah, they're pretty bizarre.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
I think the wildlife is probably one of the biggest ones I've come across. So, I remember. Yeah.
Anything work related that you've seen that's been bizarre? Your framing, your electrical, or DIY?
There were. This goes back to one of my cabinet companies that I worked for. I was doing a cabinet inspection. This was a weird one. I was doing a cabinet inspection. It was bathroom, full kitchen, and I think there was like some closet cabinets. And I was walking around looking for these closet cabinets, and all of a sudden I took like a left turn through their primary bath, and there's a massive room buried in the back of this house. And it had like drainage in the floor and just a really like creepy vibe. I don't know. That one was a quirky one for sure. So that might take the cake even over pest. That was
yes.
so,
I
That's
would have
crazy.
been trying to get out of that house as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go with the fact that he was a cigar aficionado. He needed a humidity system. I have no idea. Still this day, I don't know. So yeah,
We could probably do a whole podcast on the crazy houses we've seen. Like in the beginning when we first started Simply Home, we work with a lot of rental companies doing like their make-readies. And I mean, I could recall some of those houses like they were just yesterday of how bad they were.
I remember with Property Management, we were called one time to pick up human feces.
Yeah. There was like druggies living in the house.
Yes, human feces. That happened actually a few times. And that wasn't a service that we offered, but it was a strange request. I didn't take them up on the offer myself.
fascinating.
And that's when we transitioned to full home remodels. We got out of the make ready.
And that was the pivot.
Yeah. So like, should we rebrand? Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, that really was the one. Yeah, and a lot of drugs and
it was sad.
But a lot of drugs and Michelle and I learned we don't go on those walkthroughs alone.
Oh yeah,
There
we
you
would just
go.
willy-nilly. We'd be like, is anybody home? And it would be like a homeless person living there. And we're like, we're just taking a quick measurement. Like, so dumb. Excuse me, like stepping over.
Does that say 24 feet?
Could you hold that on that end, please? For like in our wedges, like walking through.
Yeah, there was that one person that broke in someone's back house that we were remodeling.
Oh yeah, that was like semi-recent, right?
It was years ago.
Yeah.
It was me and you and the woman that owned that investment property, and we were remodeling the house and the back house, but someone had broken in and was living in the back house.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we weren't expecting that when we went over there to check on it, I guess, after the weekend.
Yeah.
When it happened. And we were very surprised to see there was someone's stuff. Thankfully, the person wasn't in there.
Yeah. And with that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like this has turned into a Halloween edition.
Oh my
Like,
God.
the spooky, creepy,
Yes. Oh, wow.
worst
We could
case
totally
scenarios.
make it
Yeah.
creepy,
Well,
Yes.
cue the music.
Okay, so to kind of tie this all in, I think an important kind of note that I'd like to add to some surprises that you've talked about, Guy, but also just experiences we've had is, and you can kind of add on to this, but what I really want to hone in on is that there's no reason for clients to be scared. We get that there's a cost factor to that, and we are very considerate when presenting that to a client. So I think the biggest thing, though, is nothing really scares us, right? So something behind the walls can kind of sound scary. What is it? How big is it? How expensive is it? But I mean, the stuff that you've even found in the years that you've been with us, it's all something we've seen or can handle or know how to deal with. Mm-hmm. So it's not a concern for us in that way.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. I think, the scariest part is the unknown, which we will figure that out. Right after that would have to be cost, whether it's something that, is easily already fits within the plan, like a wall we were already going to reframe anyways, or if it's something that generates cost. Those are really the scary part. Our overall objective and mission and where we will get it in the end is that we're going to get it done and finish out the work. So, and I, much like, taking time, digging in on topics and new subjects and new technology related to construction, like I look forward to those opportunities and those challenges to dig deeper and figure out how to resolve the issues. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
So we try to come forward with the confidence and remain as unflappable as possible.
Yeah.
And we We've got this. So
Yeah.
You got this.
Well, especially you, Guy. You got it.
You got this, guy.
You love to research and make sure it's done right. So that's
and that kind of ties into the value proposition of Simply Home and any remodeling firm. What do you think is the biggest element of value that we bring to clients?
I think the biggest one is professionalism, communication. We try to be as open as possible with everybody we're working with, and we as soon as issues come up, we're communicating that so that we can figure out the resolution that's best for everybody involved. So we're engaging, I guess. Yeah,
we really have.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we engage all right. Okay, before we get into our fun kind of final questions for you, is there anything else to add that we should let clients know about this topic?
I think the number one takeaway is, especially when you're trying to repurpose and rebuild your space so that it better suits you or your personality, is that there are going to be things that come up, but take it as a surprise, as it is for everybody. But we will figure out that best resolution and move forward and get the project complete as it needs to be, safely, up to code. That is our primary goal. So, and that we will get it there. So,
and it'll look good.
Yeah, it will.
It's gonna look good. Yeah. When we take photos at the end, then you're going to be really happy.
Yes.
Because that's when it looks the best.
We'll have a chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's dive into our fun questions.
Excellent.
All right. So this is what we kind of asked everybody, but first would be, what's your best kept secret in Austin, Texas?
I think it would have to be hiking trails. It is an unknown just how many little tucked away green belts there are in Austin that interconnect and go for miles. So, and I've been on many of these, been in tight, dense neighborhoods. You grab some little trailhead and disappear, and you can't even see the homes. I think it's something unique to the hill country around Austin, just that there are areas in Austin that, especially at one point, weren't feasible to build on. You will find some areas now where there was something over in Westlake or where the retaining wall for that home must have been like 60, 70 feet high. We'll get adventurous with construction these days. It blows my mind. But at a certain point, like, any of those little sheer drop-offs in the hill country, you carve out a little space, call it a green belt, and put a hiking trail on it. So, but yeah, explore the hiking trails in Austin. I highly recommend it. So. That's
a great point. There's a lot of good hidden ones.
What's your favorite? Do the favorite?
There's a network of them right over off of Balcones and 183 in that area that are they just chain together and will go up for miles. And they're just as good for kids and adults. One of the groups I've worked with are scouts, and we've done many a hike taking little 5-year-olds out there, and they look great. So
yeah, okay, awesome,
great. Question number 2, what is a hidden talent of yours?
The potential of voice acting, apparently.
Did you get these compliments before?
Every now and again, somebody would bring up, is like, God, you have a radio DJ voice. And it's always DJ voice or audio. Do do audiobooks or there's. Yeah, sometimes people like hear it, or I'm in that right mode of conversation. So it's untapped, but
totally.
I'd have to say,
yeah. It's so funny because I'm sure Guy at this point gets annoyed because we could be like in a team meeting and he's talking about something super serious, and then someone will be like, Guy, you really need to read books or something on the audio. And you're like, can we just get back to the point? Someone always has to
relaxed after Guy's talking, and we got to know what it could be any topic of conversation. And we're like, that was relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's a great compliment, and I've had that. There was one point I was doing customer service calls with my cabinet company, and reaching out to clients, trying to schedule service calls and stuff. And I'd be at some coffee shop outside on the patio making phone calls, and somebody like 2 tables over after I get off the phone, be like, "Man, did you do radio?" Or like, hey, so it really has that. That's been a recurrence for a long time. Yeah.
Hey, that's a calling.
It would be so believable if you pranked people and said, I'm calling from 96.7.
Oh, they would believe it. Totally.
Yeah, we're live on air.
You could do it to me.
There you go.
We make each other.
Yeah.
They're just lying about my one-on-one.
Okay. Question number 3. Out of all the office supplies, what would be your favorite item?
Well, I think one thing you got to put in perspective is my office is certainly weird. I'm more in office when I'm in like some half-built home and residence. So when I call it my desk, it's a unique place. It'll be my desk at home, paperwork, my car, my roving office, or a stack of drywall that I'm working on my laptop. So as far as like something that's always by my side in any of my offices is definitely my tape measure.
I knew it.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know. It could be something out of the trunk. I've seen a lot of different nifty tools back there, but tape measure.
Yeah. No, I do carry a special place in my heart for my 4-foot level. We've had a lot of mileage together, but I've gotten out at the grocery store and made it in and realized I have my tape measure on me. And when I get to a job site and make it out of the car without my tape measure, it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
Yeah, I'm missing something.
And I'm super specific about my tape measures too. I like them to be double printed on both sides. With standard measurements, because it's very useful if you're in a weird angle or measuring overhead. You don't have to flip that tape upside down because it creates a fall point. So, you can extend out and read under the tape. I had one of those that was, it surprised me because it was standard measurements and metric on the other side. Not that that's not useful. It's not useful for me, So right. That one I had to return, but so
you do go back to that.
Wow.
So, but cobalt tape measurements, 25 feet will get you covered. They've got some really nice compact ones, double print on both sides.
Okay, I was gonna say, hear that, Cobalt? Come sponsor us. Good job in your day. All right. Last but not least, what is something positive in the media that you have seen lately?
Yes. Man, I was so ready with all the other questions.
I think it brings out says something to our media world.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the most recent ones that I don't know if it feels political or not, but I recently heard the talk of the hostages or prisoners that were released from Iran and all that got negotiated. So and that of course had media, BBC and NPR just completely covering that story and how that release was made. So highly positive and good result to have wrapped up. And so I don't know if that's any sort of touch point or not.
No, yeah, positive.
Yeah.
It is. Human lives. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing, period. Human lives, period. That's all we got to say there.
Guy, thank you so much for coming on. We've learned a wealth of knowledge, as always, from you, and we're excited for future projects.
Yeah. But breaking ground on more of them coming up in the next couple of weeks. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm always excited to both break ground and open up the walls and see what's going on, and then finally close it all up and get those final photos.
And then break Fred. Break walls that break bread.
Like we're gonna doctor it back up, and then
we'll have dinner,
and then we'll be done.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so wonderful hearing Guy's voice, but also talking specifically about this, and we hope it's been useful for everyone. If you have any questions further, please reach out to us, and we're all ears.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Subscribe and follow us so we can share our journey with other like-minded women. You can visit our show notes for affiliate links, transcript, and other resources on our podcast page.
And if you want to see our stunning remodels, give us a follow on Instagram at simplyhomeaustin. See you next time. Bye, y'all.